On September 7, 2025, Ukraine launched one of its largest guided missile strikes since the war began. A Vilkha crew prepared to fire the nation's most powerful homegrown missile, an 800 kilograms weapon built to shatter reinforced bunkers. But just as they locked onto a massive Russian ammunition depot, a counter-battery radar exposed their position. Within minutes, Smerch rockets screamed toward them while Russia's most advanced air defenses, TOR-M2 Pantsir-S1 system worth a whopping $500 million, rushed to intercept. For missiles raced against time, GPS jamming, and tons of steel, you're about to witness Ukraine's biggest strike on Russian territory. But will it succeed or be vanished by Russian firepower? At 10:30 p.m. local time on September 7, 2025, a Ukrainian Vilkha crew in Prask was preparing to strike a Russian ammunition depot when they picked up electromagnetic emissions from a Russian Zubr M1 counter-battery radar located 38 kilometers away. What had begun as a routine strike was about to turn into a fight for survival. The radar operator's first hint of trouble came when his passive receivers lit up with the recognizable frequency pattern of the Zubr search cycle. That Russian system can detect outgoing artillery fire at ranges of up to 23 kilometers and work out its launch points within 30 seconds. Using standard response estimates, they had exactly 6 minutes before BM-30 Smerch rockets would reach their position. Their 12-tube Vilkha launcher was loaded with missiles aimed at the Kardisk ammunition depot. The crew chief initiated emergency launch drills, while the gunners scrambled to upload GPS coordinates. Each Vilkha required precise target coordinates received from Ukrainian Special Drone Forces Typhoon unit located somewhere in Russian territory and linked to a missile guidance package with an encrypted data link. That procedure normally took 3 minutes. Now they had to compress it into 90 seconds. The Vilkha stands as Ukraine's most advanced domestically built rocket system developed by the Kyiv Design Bureau. Each missile weighs 800 kilograms and carries a 170 kilograms warhead capable of punching through reinforced concrete. The guidance stack combines GPS, GLONASS, Russia's equivalent positioning system, and an INS, inertial navigation systems, yielding 10 to 30 meters accuracy at maximum range, costing staggering $300. 0 per missile. At 10:32, Russian jamming across GPS bands intensified. Without GPS confirmation, he had to rely on pre-surveyed coordinates being accurate to within 5 meters. Suddenly, at 10:33, thermal sensors registered heat booms 30 kilometers to the northeast. Smerch launchers had already fired. A Smerch rocket travels at 1,200 meters per second, meaning impact in roughly 4 minutes. The Vilkha's autoloader could ready 1 missile every 20 seconds, but they needed to fire all 4 before moving. The manufacturer requires 4-5-second dawn gaps between shots to avoid thermal damage. They had only 30 seconds.
At 10:34, the first Vilkha thundered from its tube, its launch signature instantly visible to every radar within 50 kilometers. The crew didn't wait to track the trajectory. The gunner was already initiating the second launch, while the driver cranked the 8 transporter's engine. Ukrainian doctrine demanded location change within 90 seconds of the first shot, but completing the fire mission took priority. The second missile fired at 103,430, leaving a 40 meters thermal plume picked up by Russian IR radars. The Zuppark-1M had already fixed their position to within 50 meters and sent coordinates to multiple fire units. The crew chief could now hear incoming rockets, a thin whistle that meant 30 seconds to impact. The third missile fired at 10:35. Its blast over pressure shattering windows and surrounding buildings 100 meters away. The launcher's thermal paint was already showing stress fractures from rapid firing. 1 shot remained. The driver pushed the engine to 2,200 RPM, ready to accelerate as soon as the last missile cleared. 30 seconds later, the fourth Vilkha launched just as the first Smerch rocket struck 400 meters north of their position. Their 30-ton vehicle moved forward while rockets bracketed their previous location. They had revealed themselves to every Russian unit within 100 kilometers, but for precision missiles were now streaking toward Kardisk at 1,100 meters per second at 10:40. The lead Vilkha missile descended through 8,000 meters altitude as it neared the forward edge of Russian air defenses. Its own AI computer updated the navigation package 50 times per second while assessing jamming aimed at corrupting GPS receivers. In about a minute, it would either deliver its warhead or become a costly mistake in their fight over Donbas. The missile's triple redundant guidance immediately noticed degraded GPS as it crossed into Russian-held airspace. Signal-to noise ratios fell below thresholds, forcing the system to switch to glide. But Russian forces were jamming that network too, creating an electromagnetic dead zone designed to defeat precision weapons. Within 500 milliseconds, the Vilkha-M reverted to pure inertial navigation, its fiber optic gyros holding heading accuracy at 0.2 degrees per hour. Meanwhile, 28 kilometers ahead, a TOR-M2 air defense vehicle detected the incoming missile on surveillance radar. The operator watched as the target descended through 6,000 meters at 1,100 meters per second, well inside engagement parameters. The TOR-'s fire control radar locked on at 104,115, its phased array focusing 600 kilowatts on the Vilkha-M's radar cross-section. The TOR-M2, Russia's premier point defense system, is designed to counter weapons exactly like this. Its 9M338 interceptors can engage targets from 1 to 15 kilometers in altitude from 10 meters up to 10,000 meters with reaction times of 5 to 7 seconds, with a missile traveling at Mach 2.88 speed. Such a target would be an assured hit, but the Vilkha-M wasn't flying predictably. At 10:42, its guidance package initiated a programmed maneuver, banking 15 left while preserving descent angle. That small change moved it outside the TOR-'s pre-calculated intercept window, forcing the fire control to recalculate target coordinates. The operator authorized engagement anyway, and to 9M338 missiles erupted 30 seconds later. The first interceptor climbed toward the predicted point, but the Vilkha-M executed another maneuver, this time 20 right with a slight pitch, invalidating the TOR-'s firing solution. Realizing the first interceptors would miss, the TOR operator switched to manual tracking. His screen showed the target at 3,000 meters altitude, 18 kilometers away with impact in less than 60 seconds. A Pantsir-S1 system 12 kilometers east began scanning. The TOR's second salvo performed better. Their proximity fuses detonated within 50 meters of the Vilkha mile, but failed to breach the warhead or guidance. The near misperturbed trajectory, but onboard accelerometers registered the deviation and the computer promptly corrected. As the lead missile dropped through 1,500 meters, the second Vilkha-M entered the area of contact just 30 seconds behind. The TOR-M2 crew focused on the lead target had for missiles left and two threats very close. Doctrine prioritizes the closest threat, but handling multiple high-speed targets exceeds the system's capacity. The Pantsir-S1 tried to help, but encountered difficulties as the Vilkha approached from the edge of its blind sector. By the time its 50-76 missiles were ready, the first missile had descended below 500 meters into terrain-masked zones where interception was nearly impossible. At 10:49, the lead Vilkha-M entered the terminal phase 8 kilometers from the Kardatsk ammunition depot. For Russian air defense systems converged sensors on it, surrounding the missile with radar energy. The next 45 seconds would decide whether months of Ukrainian intelligence would pay off or end in failure. The TOR crew had one last chance. Their radar tracked the missile skimming terrain masked by a Urgel line. In 15 seconds, it would clear the ridge and dive on the target. So, the operator presented his last missiles for that point and waited. 3 kilometers south, a Pantsir-S1 finally joined the fight. Carrying 1,250-76 missiles with effective range up to 20 kilometers, its crew had tracked the Vilkha since it dropped below 1,000 meters, but struggled with clutter. Their useless phased array-cycled frequencies unable to cut through interference. The depot's last hope was AZS U-230 for Vilkha on the northern position. Its for 23mm Audic cannons could fire 3,400 rounds per minute, creating a lethal curtain against low-flying threats. The gunner aimed at the expected approach, but the radar fire control struggled to distinguish the missile from background noise. At a 300 meters per second closure, he would have just 3 seconds to engage. At 10:49, the Vilkha-M crested the ridge as predicted.
Both remaining TOR missiles fired instantly, streaking toward intercept as the missile dropped to 380 meters altitude with only 12 seconds to impact. But the second Vilkha appeared at that moment, cresting the same ridge to kilometers north. The Pantsir-S1 crew, startled by the unexpected threat, split their fire, 3 missiles at each target. Panic overrode doctrine which demanded concentrated salvos. Their Mach 3 comment-guided interceptors needed 8 seconds to arrive, but splitting fire slashed hit probability. The lead Vilkha's warhead armed at 200 meters altitude, its radar altimeter supplying final corrections. Below, ammunition handlers fled, abandoning forklifts loaded with 120mm rockets. At 10:50, the TOR's last missiles passed within 30 meters, but proximity fuses failed to detonate properly at that target. Both exploded behind the rocket as it dove toward the depot. The Vilkha opened fire at 600 meters, spraying tracers in a last-ditch attempt to shred the missile. The third Vilkha appeared 20 seconds later from the east, where coverage was thinner. Across the depot, sirens screamed as personnel ran for bunkers. At 10 to 4910, the lead missiles fused since the warehouse roof below and detonated on contact. 170 kilograms of high explosive, collapsing the eastern wall instantly. That was only the beginning. Inside were thousands of tons of Russian ammunition ready for disaster. At 10:49, the blast hit pallets of 150mm shells, the shock and heat igniting propellant charges. Within 300 milliseconds, the first secondary explosion went off. The second Vilkha struck the northern warehouse 30 seconds later, punching through the roof into crates of BM-21 Grad rockets. The blast ignited 6 rockets, lifting the 15-ton roof like Hurricane Katrina. The third missile hit the western warehouse at 105,020, detonating among 9 M22 Grad rockets with submunitions. Heat and pressure ignited the payloads, producing a chain reaction that collapsed supports and sprayed burning propellant across the compound. By 10:51, fires reached a prized stockpile of S-300 Surfaceto air missiles stored in shipping containers. Each held 133 kilograms of high explosives plus solid fuel. The blast shattered windows in Kharkiv city center 3 kilometers away. The fourth Vilkha arrived at 10:52, but its target warehouse was already gone, programmed for that site. It struck the Inferno instead, adding to the devastation. Solid rocket motors cooked off, launching like unguided projectiles before detonating across the area. Russian firefighting units to kilometers away could only watch as temperatures soared above 1,800 C. At 10:55, an underground bunker with 300mm Smirk rockets exploded, creating a 40 meters crater and a mushroom cloud. By 11:10, massive fires still raged where warehouses had stood. Even Russian generals acknowledged the destruction of nearly 3,000 tons of ammunition on the battlefield. That meant 3 weeks' worth of Russian artillery gone in minutes. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more.